Yes, we're running. Tom.
Sweet. Yeah, hello everyone. To give like a bit more context to what I'm doing, so I have a clothing brand, and this is actually this is the unisex pajamas, and the name of the brand is Tom Adam. So you can see it more clearly, and I have my basically my whole family involved in the brand. So my dad would model, I would model myself, my grandma would model, my mom would do the packaging, and I would basically utilize my whole family for my brand. And Narta and Daniel asked me, could I do like a mini masterclass, and I was like, so yeah, I think I would just start with my daily workflow, or how I take pictures, and yeah, I think the consistency is always key, and I would always try to do three stories a day, and then around 3 or 4 pictures a week. And for me, it's like I'm not really big into scheduling, because I think the perfectionism is like the biggest enemy of actually posting. So whenever I would have an idea of like, okay, I want to do this, I want to repost content, I would try to do it straight away, because otherwise I would be like, okay, I will do it later, and then I never do it, or I do it 4 days after it, and it's already too late, I think. And as well, like you really get paid off by the Instagram algorithms, which is quite a pity, because it kind of like brings away the freedom, because you constantly have to be there. It's super important to respond to the commentaries, super important to respond to like all the people who are like sending you like requests, reacting to your stories, but you really see how the whole performance and the whole data is rising when when you do all those things. Let me share my screen just a second.
I'm going to do a case study today, right?
A case study?
Taking a picture, right?
Oh, true. Yeah, but can I do it through? So, yeah. Okay, basically, we want to take like a super quick picture in, I don't know, 1 minute, for example. So I already have my pajamas on, so that's not really a problem. What I would always do, and where I feel that like people quite often would mess up, is they don't utilize the natural light. And I think the natural light is the most important thing in the pictures, even if you have like a bad camera. So, okay, let's find a window. So, okay, for example, here we have a window. Like, I would say my skin color already looks way better. Then I can always correct, like, okay, how dark do I want it to be, or how light I want it to be. Let's make myself more tan than I'm actually am. And then I would always I would try to think about the aesthetics. Like, for example, this is like a really nice backdrop, which is just in this room, and there are like so many different objects I can pick. I could go like that. If I want something, I don't know, metallic tubes in the picture or whatever, let's go for something like this. I would always take several pictures. I would never take only one. And I would actually never take an image through the Instagram app, because I would always want to edit them first. So let's think about it. Let's do something like this, so the pajama is visible. And let's think that, because then I can insert, here I have like a bit of space on the left, so then I can insert the caption there, because I would always post the pictures with a caption. So let's make another one like that, for example. Cool. So yeah, usually to edit all the pictures, I would use Visco. I'm not sure if you're familiar with the app, but it's VSCO, and I can include a link later. So for example, here we have the different pictures. If I'm too quick at any moment, then please shout over me, or like show some signs and be like, be slower. So yeah, for example, let's just take a look. This one, I don't really like my mouth. This one, I'm talking, not too good either. This one could work, maybe that, no, I would go for this one. So then it's always an option of either to do it black and white or in color. I would say that I would go for a color one because I really want to show the color of the pajamas. And I think that's something that I tend to forget myself, that at the end of the day, it's nice to tell a story and it's super important, but you really have to focus on the product as well. It can't be just showcasing myself. I have to continuously think about the product itself. So I would, yes. And then like they have some presets and some filters that they offer for free. Well, I have bought them all. So there are like really, really a lot of them. But at the end of the day, I would say I use maybe 4 filters. I would have like my favorite black and white one, my favorite color one. So I would more or less pick the filter from the lighting that is in the picture. And usually if it's too dark, then I would go for black and white because I know that in color, when I bring the colors up, I would just bring the grain. And the grain, which is not this like nice, crafty and filmy grain, but kind of like it just looks shitty. That's it. It just looks like you have like a bad camera. So I would make it like a tiny bit lighter, bring the contrast up a bit, and whenever you like click on the picture, you can always see how it changes. So here I would add like a bit of clarity to show so you can zoom in, and here you can see when you sharpen it how much like the texture of the fabric pops out. So with sharpness I would always go to like a more or less +2, but I wouldn't go over it. Like maybe a bit more saturation. Then white balance, I would always go in like the orange tones majority of the time, because that just kind of makes the picture look a bit more natural. Then when you have like the light blue cold tones, and then I would like just add a bit of a grain so it has like a bit of a filmy look. Then I would save it, go here, save to camera roll, actual size. Boom, this one is done. Let's go to Instagram. Let's go to Tom Adam. Let's go to the stories. A small moment of loading the images. Yeah. So yeah, for example, then sure, like it's when you do selfies, it's a bit problematic because the format, like if you don't reach your hand far away enough, the picture don't really fit. So you kind of have to like zoom it in a bit and crop it. I would actually go for this like, no, I would go for like this. I would split my face in half. But then you can't see the product. Well, okay, I would still split it like this, and then I would.
How do you make these decisions? You're currently thinking about things. Can you walk us through your process?
Through my process of thinking,
Okay,
yeah.
decisions?
Yeah. Well, yes, I wouldn't really. I really hate when it's not seamless. So, for example, like this, I just hate the edges. I don't find them aesthetic, and I don't find like this unused space is helping anyone. And for some reason, because when you shoot for a certain format and you think about like for, I don't know, like Nike or whatever, they never have these like kind of cropped edges. They always have like perfectly fitted picture. So you kind of have to replicate that. Even if and sometimes you have to make certain sacrifices. I would say I really like the image in its full frame, but unfortunately I can't do this at the moment. So I would just sacrifice that and I would zoom it in completely. And then I would think about the framing. And as I said, I think you never achieve perfection, so it's always better done than perfect. And while I'm talking with you, I'm thinking about it, and actually I would probably go for it like this. I wouldn't cut off the eye, because it might be like a more artsy picture, but then it cuts off the pajama, which is like actually the main thing that I want to show.
What about making a black background and the picture a bit smaller, like a black frame around?
Yeah, true. That would be totally an option. But
like, you know, when you copy paste the image from the camera roll to the Instagram story.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, for sure. I think for me, it just kind of takes a bit more time. And sometimes I would think about like, okay, for example, here is a shadow. So how it would align with like the black square. And sometimes like some weird shadows pop up. So I feel like obviously like we could put it on like a black square, but in this case, I feel like I have more control over the picture if I just zoom it in. And if I have like a color underneath it, then I have to think about, okay, how exactly does it lay on the picture? If that makes sense. Yeah, maybe. But I think it's like everyone, that's another beauty of Instagram. Like everyone has their own way how to figure it out. There are people who do things like absolutely different way. They like tune all the pictures through the Instagram and it absolutely works for them. And for me, it's somehow, yeah, I don't know. This is the way I work and I'm very kind of used to my workflow. So that would be something that I would always do. And I think for me, like the main thing of the image is the composition, and then the aesthetics, and like, okay, how well do I showcase the product? I think that would be the priority for me. And then, okay, let's go, for example, to typeface. So I would leave it like this. Then we have a bit of space on the right corner. I'm not as well a huge fan of adding frames to stuff. Like, no, wait, where's like this? Sometimes I would do it, but I would usually do it when I have to tag someone, like a brand or something, and you really want to have it like very clear to read. But majority of the time, I don't know, the frames just don't align with my aesthetic. And I think if we think what makes a good picture, especially on Instagram stories, it's something that aligns with your aesthetics, your values, and your storytelling. And as I'm a big fan of minimalism and using free space and letting it breathe, then I wouldn't really use all these frames because I genuinely don't enjoy them and I don't feel that it fits with my brand aesthetic. So let's delete this one. Then another thing, I feel like it's very important to talking about authenticity is ways how to make yourself look different. And one thing that I would actually always use the classic typeface, but I would put space in between of each letter. So if I wouldn't write masterclass like this, because it's kind of like it has been seen everywhere because everyone is using that. So what I would do, I would add a, I would, sorry, I would add a, no, oh yeah, that's what happens when you want to show someone. I would do this. Well, it doesn't work that well on this specific background, but I would still always use this kind of these spaces in between because it just gives another look. And quite often people would ask me like, okay, which app are you using? Where are you like making the typefaces? But I would always, for typefaces, I would use the Instagram story app because I feel like, okay, if I would have to use like an additional app, that would be a bit too much. And then I would tag in factories, Factory Berlin, or factory designers. Factory Berlin. Okay, just designers. Okay. Yeah, and I would always try with the whole composition of the text, I would always try to align them with golden ratio from Fibonacci. So you would have the proportion of like, you have a bigger headline, which is the main priority. Then you have, for example, like the Designer's Circle and Factory Berlin, and those two should hypothetically, if you add them both up, they should be the same size as the masterclass. And that's kind of like, in terms of like the perception of the text, I think it just makes more sense for the eye. it feels more natural in a way. I wouldn't use all the headlines like the same size. Like, for example, like this, for me, it's just too cluster. It takes attention away from the shirt. It's hard to distinguish which specific thing to focus on. So yeah, I would always kind of maintain the tags quite small, because if people are curious, they will still click on them anyways. And then you can always check the data in the Instagram app to see how well they're working and how much people are clicking on them. So you have like, yeah, you have like this data tab on Instagram where you can check that. So let's go for something like this. No, like that. Yeah. Sweet, posted. That's it. The masterclass is over. No, but and then for example, like there is about reposting content. Like there's this influencer whom I send the underwear to, and then he like made this shoot. So in regards to, well, yeah, it's very explicit. I'm sorry, but that's what I'm doing. I'm selling men's underwear. So when I'm reposting the stories of like influencers, for example, I wouldn't really add much. I would just like trust their aesthetic, trust what they have there. If they have tagged me in, it's perfect. I can add maybe like the description of the product, but majority of the time I'm trying to keep it simple. So I would as well like maybe maintain it like this, and then add it to your story. And I think it's very important to have not always create content on your own, but have, for example, like profiles that you like and that you feel like they align with your aesthetic, and you can just repost the content. I think we can see like quite a lot of Instagram feeds where maybe like 5% of the content actually comes from the brand and the rest comes from like other profiles. But as far as they fit your aesthetic, and I think especially in like having a fashion brand, it's so important to just build the image of what actually fits the brand and what kind of lifestyle you're living. So if you can repost like sculptures or artists or all those different things which kind of align to that lifestyle, I think it's like a very, very, very good way to work with the content. Then what I would always do, like I would pick a brand that I really like and which I kind of feel like as well it fits the aesthetics or fits the storytelling, and I would just recreate things that they are creating. For example, like right here we have Painter's Jacket, which is this brand owned by a couple. They started, I think, 1 year ago. They do these batches of limited edition jackets, and they're growing super, super quick. And I think what they're doing really, really well, they're being very transparent about the things that they're posting and that they're doing. And what I really love about them is the fact how actually their website is not that great as their Instagram is, but they're really using their Instagram as an extension of the website. So you have this Linktree thing, which allows you to set different links inside your bio. So instead of having just your website, you can suddenly like join the jacket list, which is like the waiting list, which is the newsletter. Then they have the waiting list, the website, the story. So you can actually see all those things and like kind of transfer the customer straight to the specific category of your website. And in Linktree, it's free. You can use it for free. You don't have to pay anything. Like I think for like additional data, you have to pay, but you can see all the statistics of like how many times a person have clicked on the link and etc. etc. Yeah. Does anyone have any questions? No. Great.
Yeah,
Yes,
the question.
me too.
Yeah.
Go first.
Why you don't use, like I don't remember how we call it, but where you can actually link your product to your shop from the Instagram page,
To be very honest, wait, am I still sharing the screen? Yeah.
Ah, yeah, you have it actually.
I do have it. No, that's I do have it, but I feel like I haven't sold any products through this linking.
Okay.
Like for me personally, it's not working. So
Okay.
and then the problem is that like it has to be linked through. It has to be. I think at the beginning it had to be linked through Facebook, and I wasn't too ecstatic about using Facebook through it all because I'm not a huge fan of their interface, and I don't feel that people are using it so much. So when I'm doing advertising, I don't really use Facebook because I would just, I don't know, receive hateful comments and fake likes on Facebook. But Instagram, you feel how it's like it's giving you the benefit, and you can really get a value out of it. So for me, at least, it personally doesn't work. So I don't feel like it's necessary to spend any time on that.
Okay. Thanks.
I also have a question regarding the stories you repost. Is it always related to your products? So if an influencer or a customer is posting your product, do you repost only these stories, or also like art it's not related to your brand?
You mean when someone is like tagging me in the post and it wouldn't be related to my product or my brand?
No, in general, because you said you repost, I don't know, designers, artists, and stuff like that. So it's not always related to your product.
No,
to your brand.
Yeah, absolutely. It's not always related to my product. It's quite often if I like what the artist is doing, or for example, like with the whole Black Lives Matter movement, I would repost the articles which I find worthy and which I find that people can learn from it, and I feel like it's my obligation to participate that and use my platform. And like I have this black screen which I feel a bit conflicted of how worthy or necessary it is, but nonetheless, or for example, here in the link tree, I have like Black Lives Matter resources, and then I would have I would have a Google Docs of, no, something is, well, I don't know, it's not really working, which sometimes happens, but on desktop you can, no, now it is. So yeah, there will be all the podcasts and articles on, yeah, for that movement. So it's not necessary about just posting product, because for me it's about building this whole lifestyle and presenting how I see different things and culture. And I think especially in fashion or building furniture, architecture, it consists of so many different things that, and I think people are very curious about that. Like, what do you think? And I think it's like a very great way how to build a community around that, because that's a great way how you can share your personality. For example, here I have talking about that, I have a folder of inspirations, and sometimes I feel like it's challenging to post on stories, especially if it's not really interesting. If I have to post a product after a product, which I have seen so many times, it gets boring. So for me, I always try to find something that I'm interested in, not maybe even in the context of the brand. So here I would have like books which I love to read, and then I would just like repost pictures from the books, from details. So yeah, I'm always kind of trying to learn from the stuff that I'm posting, or at least try to make it interesting for myself, because at the end of the day, that's what matters the most for me, that I can be.
Yeah, that makes totally sense. I never thought about that. I recently started on my Instagram also to repost artists and art which inspires me. But somehow I feel like people don't want to see that. They follow me because they want to see stuff that I'm doing, and yeah, I don't know. and maybe it's too spammy or something like that. So I'm not really sure about that, but it's good to know or to hear your experience with that.
I was,
Oh, go ahead.
no, sorry.
I was going to ask if you can give us some insight. Is there a way to see what kind of engagement you get on one story versus another? Like, would Kate be able to tell, for example, like if fewer people watch the stories where she posts something that she's inspired by versus something of her own? Like, is there a way to kind of figure out what's working for the people who follow you?
I would say that like the Instagram algorithms they're a very, very tricky thing. And quite often I can't figure it out on my own why suddenly, for example, I would lose 10 followers every day for a week. And then suddenly it would be like totally the other way around. Or I would say that when I posted the black screen, my whole engagement really went down. For example, if usually I would have, I don't know, 400 Instagram story views, suddenly I was having 80. And then you are like, oof, that's quite tough. But, I think it's just like Instagram is kind of detecting that you have a picture which people are not liking so much. So suddenly like your content is not so relevant. I think it's so important for Instagram to really showcase your story at the very beginning of the people who always watches it and always looks at it. So yeah, sometimes you have to make sacrifices. And for me, it's more important that I'm telling about things that I care and not sacrifice of, okay, I can lose 5 people, but if they're racist, I don't care about it. I don't want them to wear my product.
Yeah. That's really interesting.
So yeah, I didn't really give you an answer. I think it's, for me, I'm not such a data-based person. I would check Google Analytics in terms of the website and how can I improve and like the referrals and where the traffic is coming from. But with the Instagram, it's just more about storytelling and kind of engaging and being there and being present. And then what are the numbers? I can't control it that much. I do what I find right or what fits the aesthetics, and yeah.
Yeah. Thanks.
Do you sometimes post video as well, or mostly photos? And if not, why not?
Dinko, can I show you my dancing videos?
Yeah, I know those, but some of them.
It's actually Friday. It's actually Friday.
Okay.
But yeah, I really love to dance, and those are the videos that I would post. But I think it's like, yeah, it always kind of, okay, I would just like, so you can see all my dancing videos in my room. But I would post videos sometimes when I feel like it's like the best way to express the story. Majority of the time I would choose pictures because I can edit them. So I can put like a certain filter, I can pick the angle better. Yes, that's why I would usually pick a picture over a video. But if I feel like video is the best way how to show a certain movement, then I would go for a video. If it, like, I would use video for like an action. If it's dancing, if it's playing tennis, if it's going swimming, like diving into the pool or something, then I would pick a video. But majority of the time it would be pictures.
Yeah. Thanks.
This is excellent. We can just keep watching. One thing I was going to ask around, like, you know, formats of stories, it was, yeah, you work like with video or photo, and that's all like sort of shot material, right? But do you also sometimes work with, you know, creating a composition in Photoshop or in whatever program? It's like graphic content and not necessarily a photo. And if not, why not?
I think a graphic content is great, for example, in this case, when you create the folders. I think it's like a great way how to do storytelling. For example, you have but I started them super recently, but I think it's, for example, you have like the opening page, name of the product, then you can have like a picture, and then you can add like the logo, for example, on top of the picture, a name on top of the picture. I have to show, because I have some designs on the Photoshop on my computer, but I feel like I would use these design layouts when I use it for folders. So for Instagram stories, which will be on my profile and there permanently, then I find that it's worth it to put in the effort. But if it's something quick, I find like it takes too much effort. It takes too much time. So then I wouldn't do it. But to tell like kind of groups of stories in the folders, I think it absolutely makes sense. I can check if I can share the screen to share screen. Can you see the screen?
Yes.
So this would be basically like the content I would do just graphically, and I would have like the position of the logo wouldn't change. Then the upper headline would change depending on the topic or the product line. And then I would just, use the text, and then maybe, okay, I would include a picture, not include the picture, but I would kind of have like a certain layout, which then I would reuse. And I feel like it's, at least for me, when I see it in other brands, it gives kind of more credibility, because you really feel that like the brand has put some effort in that. And if you put your logo on a picture, it's somehow feels more branded. It feels more authentic in a way, maybe a bit more professional. Yeah,
that's great. That's really cool to see.
How about Insta stories versus your feed? How do you choose what goes where? Because they look very different. Right?
That's true. With back to the phone. One second.
Well, in the space on the right, I think you're full screen. That's one. Yeah.
Is it?
Yep.
Yeah. So basically all the images on my feed, talking about reposting, for example, this is not my image. It's by John McLean, but as the swim shorts have almost the same color as these swim shorts, majority of the people wouldn't even tell that that's not my own content. And then all these pictures are from photo shoots done by a professional photographer or photographers. So I would usually have my feed in like a bit more of a professional way and with like well-kept aesthetics. And then the stories would just be like, me playing around and me experimenting way much more. So the feed would kind of give the first visual appearance or the aesthetic, and then in the stories I can tell more about the story of the brand and kind of play around, and I don't have to be so, I don't know, like so restricted in a certain sense. So that would be the, and with these images, as I would quite often edit them together with the photographer, I would have like a certain color in them and a certain way how to edit them. So I wouldn't put them again in like a photo app and edit them again, because that can create a lot of inconsistency when you have like one image is like that, another image is like that, although they're from the same photo shoot. For example, I don't know, you're in a bad mood and you are just like, no, I will like tune this image like this. And then it looks totally different, and it can be very confusing for a person checking your feed for the first time. So at least like this, I'm trying to like have it as seamless as possible, because in terms of like the whole kind of user experience of the brand, I think the whole experience starts from the first time a person sees you. So it's either Instagram or it's the website, and it all kind of has to align. You go on the website, and the website should be an extension of the Instagram, and then you order the product, and then in the product, for example, in the packaging, you should have a card which kind of replicates what is on the website or on the Instagram. So it all kind of connects at the end of the day, and that it's not all those like separate things which don't really align, because then it can become very confusing. Any other questions?
I have a quantification question. How long do you put, like, how many hours per week do you put on your Instagram?
How many hours do I put per week on my Instagram?
Professional Instagram.
How many? Oof, that changes a lot. Like my personal Instagram, I live there. I never leave it. Professional Instagram, together with endlessly scrolling or like looking for inspiration, or just like the posting part?
The posting part, the content creation.
Yeah, content creation, not that much. I would say it's probably, well, okay, it's probably like 2 hours a week, 2.5.
It's almost nothing. And do you interact a lot in a way that with other similar brands, in the way that you go on their feeds and you like their stuff and all that, or actually you just leave it aside?
No, I do. I have this rule that I reach out to 2 people a day, like whatever the people are. Like, for example, I don't know, I'm reading a nice book. I would like reach out to the author, or I would like listen to a nice DJ set. I would reach out to the DJ, and that kind of like really helps to widen the network. And it's not for me, it's when I reach out, like obviously you can A/B test and see, is it better to like ask them something straight away? But I really feel that it's more important to give and just to genuinely be nice to people, because if it like, it's very different if someone approaches you on the street and they're like, hey, like your jacket looks really nice, and you're like, oh, okay, that really makes me feel nice. Or someone is like, hey, can you give me 50 cents? You're like, oof, not so sure about it. But if you can compliment on a nice jacket, have a tiny chat, and then ask for 50 cents, the ratio that they might give you the 50 cents is way bigger. So I think like, yeah, that's how I try to see it. So I would interact with brands. At the same time, I would quite often comment on their pictures, and I wouldn't really like copy paste comments, which yes, I can't really scale it that much, but at least I can write something funny, and that might resonate with them a lot more, because it's not really like a computer generated content. And yes, I feel like it's super important to like communicate with other brands. And I think when I launched my brand, I was like, no, I don't want other people to like steal my ideas, or like, I want to kind of like preserve it. And then you're just like, okay, we're all on this planet, and it's really nice to share, and it's really nice to exchange ideas. And that's how you can like, yeah, really widen the network and really widen the horizon. And I feel that like collaborations and working with other people is absolutely the future of every single industry and every single work. Yeah. Did I answer your question?
Positive.
I have another question for you, because before you were mentioning like influencers, for instance, but do you like what's your actually strategy with you know, external people wearing your brand? Do you work with influencers at all, or do you I don't know, would you like reach out to artists that you like and send them your products, or is it a way that you work, or not at all?
I always have it in my mind, but from my experience, I think it's nice to work with influencers. Like, for example, like the guy in the undies that I showed, it like I gained some followers, and I gained sort of like trust in the circle of other influencers. So there would be like quite a lot of influencers who would reach out to me and be like, hey, can we work together? Because probably there's some competition going on in between them. So it's like a nice way how to raise brand awareness. But at the same time, I think like you don't do it with an idea that you want to get some straight revenue out of that. You can help to promote your brand and get some more like awareness on it, but you're not like, okay, I send the underwear, it costs this amount of money, I want at least double back, and if I don't do it, like if I don't get it, it's not working. I think you don't really, yeah, I was looking at it at the beginning, and right now it doesn't make any sense. You can work with influencers, but you just see it as like as raising the awareness. Well, I used the word awareness like 3 times in the last 30 words, so that's a bit too much. But
yes, sorry.
No. So I would work with them, but I think it really depends on which influencers you pick. You should never go for the numbers and I think you have to be very smart in terms of like checking their images, seeing how many likes they have, but as well like how many commentaries they have. And the followers can be like a very, very misleading number. And I would always go for not even an influencer. I would always go for a person who has like 2,000 followers, for example, over a person who has like 180,000. Like even that ratio, I would go for a person who has 2,000 because probably 1,000 of them are acquaintances of friends and they actually care about the person's opinion. And they know that majority of the time they're not selling bullshit. On the contrary, with a person who has 180,000, probably 175 of them are bought and the 5 other ones followed because they have so many.
Yeah. And what about maybe not even influencers, but what about, I don't know, do you sometimes pick up like designers that you like or artists that you like and make them interact with your product, or is it not part of your strategy, or like, you know, your social media strategy?
I would interact, but I think it's more in like more in a personal way and more just like chatting and exchanging ideas about like the brand strategy and how they're doing things, and not so much like I will send you underwear, can you put them on? And I feel like it's a bit tricky, especially with underwear, because it's not like the thing which you would showcase very often, especially as a man. It's not like you would be like, oh yeah, I'll just like snap this picture by the mirror and post myself with underwear. I think with like pajamas or stuff which you can wear outdoors, it's way easier to showcase it. But with underwear, it can be tricky to showcase it. Even, I don't know, you won't send it to DJs to be like, hey, can you do this DJ set only in underwear? Well, okay, might be a strategy, but I guess it's not really what I'm going for.
Yeah, there are clubs in Berlin. Come on, that's a bit.
Well, yeah, Kit Kat is, I think it's not open, but
yeah, true.
But I will add it to my to-do list. Yeah. Sweet. Any other questions?
All right. Excellent. That was a good amount of quietness. Then we at least end the recording, so we got